pharaoh is a title used in many modern discussions of the rulers of all ancient Egyptian dynasties. Title origin: the title originates in the Egyptian term pre currency, literally great house, describing the royal palace. Historically, however, pharaoh only started being used as a title for the king during the New Kingdom, specifically during the middle of the 18th dynasty, after the reign of Hatshepsut. Etymology: pharaoh, meaning great house, originally referred to the king's palace, but during the reign of Thutmose III in the New Kingdom, after the foreign rule of the Hyksos during the Second Intermediate Period, became the form of address for a person who was king and the son of the god Ra. The Egyptian sun god Ra, considered the father of all pharaohs, was said to have created himself from a pyramid-shaped mound of earth before creating all other gods. The term pharaoh ultimately was derived from a compound word represented as ʻfeɪ.roʊ, written with the two biliteral hieroglyphs ʻpia house, and ʻo kappa a pound column. It was used only in larger phrases such as smrpr or courtier of the high house, with specific reference to the buildings of the court or palace. From the 12th dynasty onward the word appears in a wish formula: great house, may it live, prosper, and be in health, but again only with reference to the royal palace and not the person. The earliest instance where fær.oʊ is used specifically to address the ruler is in a letter to Amenhotep IV, who reigned c. 1353 1336 BCE, which is addressed to Pharaoh, all life, prosperity, and health. During the 18th dynasty the title pharaoh was employed as a reverential designation of the ruler. About the late 21st dynasty, however, instead of being used alone as before, it began to be added to the other titles before the ruler's name, and from the 25th dynasty it was, at least in ordinary usage, the only epithet prefix to the royal appellative. From the 19th dynasty onward ʻpio kappa a pound on its own was used as regularly as HMF, majesty. The term therefore evolved from a word specifically referring to a building to a respectful designation for the ruler, particularly by the 22nd dynasty and 23rd dynasty. For instance, the first dated instance of the title pharaoh being attached to a ruler's name occurs in year 17 of Siamon on a fragment from the Karnak priestly annals. Here, an induction of an individual to the Amun priesthood is dated specifically to the reign of Pharaoh Siamon. This new practice was continued under his successor Phsuzensdu and the 21st dynasty kings. Meanwhile the old custom of referring to the sovereign simply as phær.oʊ continued in traditional Egyptian narratives. By this time, the late Egyptian word is reconstructed to have been pronounced pari, whence comes ancient Greek ii plus or minus ii plus or minus I pharaoh and then late Latin pharaoh. From the latter, English obtained the word pharaoh. In the Hebrew Bible, the title also occurs as pari. Over time, pari evolved into Sayyidite Coptic pr.roʊ a squared l a squared b squared y and then a.roʊ. Regalia, scepters and staves. Scepters and staves were a general sign of authority in ancient Egypt. One of the earliest royal scepters was discovered in the tomb of Khosrow in Abydos. Kings were also known to carry a staff, and Pharaoh Anjib is shown on stone vessels carrying a so-called MKS staff. The scepter with the longest history seems to be the hex scepter, sometimes described as the shepherd's crook. The earliest examples of this piece of regalia dates to pre-dynastic times. A scepter was found in a tomb at Abydos that dates to the late Naqada period. Another scepter associated with the king is the was scepter. This is a long staff mounted with an animal head. The earliest known depictions of the was scepter date to the 1st dynasty. The was scepter is shown in the hands of both kings and deities. The flail later was closely related to the hex scepter, but in early representations the king was also depicted solely with the flail, as shown in a late pre-dynastic knife handle which is now in the Metropolitan Museum, and on the Nama maze head. The uraeus, the earliest evidence we have of the use of the uraeus a rearing cobra is from the reign of Den from the 1st dynasty. The cobra supposedly protected the pharaoh by spitting fire at its enemies. Crowns and headdresses. The red crown of Lower Egypt the Deshret crown dates back to pre-dynastic times. A red crown has been found on a pottery shard from Naqada, and later, King Nama is shown wearing the red crown on both the Nama maze head and the Nama palette. The white crown of Upper Egypt the Headdresses crown is shown on the Custal incense burner, which dates to the pre-dynastic period. Later, King Scorpion was depicted wearing the white crown, as was Nama. The combination of red and white crown into the double crown or fent crown is first documented in the middle of the First Dynasty. The earliest depiction may date to the reign of Jet, and is otherwise surely attested during the reign of Den. Cart and Nemes headdresses. The cart headdress consists of a kind of a eckerchief whose end is tied similarly to a ponytail. The earliest depictions of the cart headdress comes from the reign of Den, but is not found again until the reign of Djezza. The Nemes headdress dates from the time of Djezza. The statue from Hissarda and Saqqara showed the king wearing the Nemes headdress. Physical evidence. Egyptologist Bob Breyer has noted that despite its widespread depiction in royal portraits, no ancient Egyptian crown ever has been discovered. Tutankhamun's tomb, discovered largely intact, did contain such regalia as his crook and flail, but no crown was found however among the funerary equipment. Diadems have been discovered. It is presumed that crowns would have been believed to have magical properties. Breyer's speculation is that crowns were religious or state items, so it is likely that a dead pharaoh could not retain a crown as a personal possession. The crowns may have been passed along to the successor. Titles. During the early dynastic period, kings had as many as 3 titles. The Horus name is the oldest and dates to the late pre-dynastic period. The Neswt name was added during the middle of the First Dynasty. The Nebti name was first introduced toward the end of the First Dynasty. The Golden Falcon name is not well understood. The prenomen and nomen were introduced later and are traditionally enclosed in a cartouche. By the Middle Kingdom, the official titulary of the ruler consisted of 5 names: Horus, Nebti, Golden Horus, nomen, and prenomen. For some rulers, only 1 or 2 of them may be known. Neswt name. The Neswt name was one of the new developments from the reign of Den. The name would follow the glyphs for the ʻfeɪ.roʊ sedge and the fær.oʊ. The title is usually translated as King of Upper and Lower Egypt. The Neswt name may have been the birth name of the king. It was often the name by which kings were recorded in the later annals and king lists. Horus name. The Horus name was adopted by the king, when taking the throne. The name was written within a square frame representing the palace, named a sarek. The earliest known example of a sarek dates to the reign of King Ka, before the First Dynasty. The Horus name of several early kings expresses a relationship with Horus. Aha refers to a ʻfeɪ.roʊ Horus the fighter, a ʻfær.oʊ, Ja refers to a ʻfær.oʊ Horus the strong ʻfær.oʊ, etc. Later kings express ideals of kingship in their Horus names. Kasekimi refers to a ʻfær.oʊ Horus, the 2 powers are at Piasia ʻfær.oʊ, while Nebra refers to a ʻfær.oʊ Horus, lord of the Suna ʻfær.oʊ. Nebti name. The earliest example of a Nebti name comes from the reign of King Aha from the First Dynasty. The title links the king with the goddesses of Upper and Lower Egypt Nekhrit and Wadjet. The title is preceded by the vulture and the cobra standing on a basket. Golden Horus. The Golden Horus or Golden Falcon name was preceded by a falcon on a gold or NBW sign. The title may have represented the divine status of the king. The Horus associated with gold may be referring to the idea that the bodies of the deities were made of gold and the pyramids and obelisks are representations of sun rays. The gold sign may also be a reference to Nubt, the city of Set. This would suggest that the iconography represents Horus conquering Set. Nomen and prenomen. The prenomen and nomen were contained in a cartouche. The prenomen often followed the king of Upper and Lower Egypt or lord of the 2 lands title. The prenomen often incorporated the name of Re. The nomen often followed the title son of Re or the title lord of appearances. See also: List of pharaohs, coronation of the pharaoh, great royal wife, the chief wife of a male pharaoh, Egyptian chronology, conventional Egyptian chronology, history of Egypt, Pharaoh of the Exodus, Islamic view of the Pharaoh of the Exodus, monarch, references. Bibliography: Shaw, Gary J. The Pharaoh, Life at Court and on Campaign, Thames and Hudson, 2012. Sir Alan Gardner Egyptian Grammar, Being an Introduction to the Study of Hieroglyphs, 3rd edition, revised. London, Oxford University Press, 1964. Excursiva, pp. 71–76. Jan Osman, Der Mythos des Godka Paragraph Nix im Alten Ägypten, in Christine Schmidt's und Angebettenworth, Mention, Heroes, Gott, Weltent 1/4 RFE und Lebensmodell im Mythos der Vormodern, 11–26. External links, Digital Egypt for Universities, Mummies of the Pharaohs.